Path of Exile 2's first big content update is almost upon us, Dawn of the Hunt. And there's been a lot of frequent questions asked. I want to go over what those are and as well as the answers to them. And IGN also did a Q&A with the devs that'll offer some more information, insight to what to expect in this free expansion to the early access version of PoE 2. So let's take a look at that right now. First up here is when does Dawn of the Hunt launch on all platforms? Well, pretty much they made it clear that, yeah, it's going to be April 4th. So this Friday, and it looks like it'll be 3 p.m. EST in your local time on all support platforms, which is going to be PC, the PC client, their Steam, Epic Game Store, and Xbox Series and PS5. Will there be an economy reset? There will be a new leagues made for those who wish to start in a fresh economy. And it is saying it's highly recommended that you play in a new economy due to the extensive number of balance changes. I definitely will be playing new economy, at least with the new Huntress character anyway. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to just like take existing characters I got already and put them over there. Well, I'll probably say this. I'll take maybe existing characters I kind of made that I haven't really done much with and move them to and start over in a new economy. As you can see here, is an image here, shows standard and Dawn of the Hunt. And ask, how do I start in a league with a fresh economy? Well, when I'm creating characters, select the Dawn of the Hunt banner. So let's do that. Now, the question was asked, will my existing characters and items be wiped when Dawn of the Hunt is released? The response is no. As we have announced last year, there will not be any wipes and you will not lose access to your existing characters and progress. That being said, your passive tree will most likely be reset, which is fine. I have no issue with that personally. And extensive balance changes may have significantly changed how your character plays, which is understandable. It makes sense. It's supposed to. Do I need to create a new character and start the game from the beginning? While we do recommend starting over and getting the full new experience in the Dawn of the Hunt leagues, all the content from this update will be made available in the existing early access leagues so you can play your existing characters. Is there a special in-game mechanic that is available only Dawn of the Hunt leagues and not in the core game? No, everything we're adding in Dawn of the Hunt will be available in the core game as well. Future leagues will usually add exclusive content. So yeah, for now, no gimmick, no exclusive content. We'll have to wait for future leagues for that. What happens with my stash tabs if I start any new league with a fresh economy? Any stash tabs you have purchased will be available to use in new leagues. Since the new league is a fresh economy, your stash in the new league will not contain any items from your stash in other leagues. So keep that in mind. Is this paid expansion? No, this is free. Free stuff here. Devs of PoE 2 do not do paid expansions as far as I know with their games here. So yeah, existing PoE 2 player, all you have to do is download the content update. That's it. However, if you don't already have access to Path of Exile 2 and are interested in playing Dawn of the Hunt, you would need to purchase any of the early access supporter packs to get access to the game. Basically, I recommend just going with the cheapest one. It's $30. Will there be a preload download? Yes, we'll make a torrent file for the standalone PC client available for pre-download a day before launch. So it looks like there will not be a pre-download for Steam. There might be, I don't know, we'll see. But just the PC client so far. What information will be revealed before launch? This week, we will publish the full patch notes as well as information about item filters, what to expect at launch day, and new Twitch drops. Stay tuned. So yeah, I may do another video going over the full patch notes. Maybe not full, but just more in detail because it's going to be a ton. I mean, we had a ton in the freaking 40-minute reveal of this big content. And they still didn't go over everything. There's still so much more. So yeah. Will you reveal all new support gems? No, they're going to leave up to us for us to explore the game and discover. Like they're adding at least 100 or more new support gems. So crazy. Armor transactions I purchased in the PoE 1 available in PoE 2. Basically, yeah, if you made purchases on your Path of Exile account in Path of Exile 1 and are logging into Path of Exile 2 with the same account, any purchases that are already on PoE 2 will be available there also. And devs have added a lot of existing microtransactions of PoE2 and Dawn of the Hunt, and we'll continue and add more over time, which is cool. I mean, it's free to play game. Well, not free to play right now. You got to pay early access, but it will be free to play once it launches. So they got to make their money somehow. I mean, heck, they got me a bit. I mean, I don't typically engage with microtransaction stuff, but since I am a content creator and I do eventually plan to make builds and guide videos for all the classes once it's more polished out and everything like that, I did get a stash tab for Huntress. So I got one of them premium quad stash tabs for Huntress just for a gear. Please note that any purchases made on PlayStation platforms cannot be used on other platforms, and purchases made on other platforms cannot be used on PlayStation platforms. Note that these purchases can still be on the same sub account, but the microtransactions will be marked as unavailable when viewing them in your stash. No new supporter packs. While Dawn of the Hunt does not come with new supporter packs, on release weekend, we expect to launch the new mystery box and cool microtransactions, some of which are themed around the Huntress. In the meantime, the Paladin and Penance supporter packs from PoE 1 are now available to purchase in PoE 2. So check them out. That's not all, though, guys. They talk with IGN as well. And I want to go over some details here. Starts with what IGN asked. It seems Dawn of the Hunt is going to focus on a lot of revising the ending game experience. Can you share what the top takeaways were that your team received in terms of community feedback based on initial release, and how you guys are addressing them with this update? So this is what I more so care about. Stuff like this. All right, Jonathan Rogers responds with, yeah, so I guess the main things that we had were, for a start, you've got content. The content wasn't lasting. It wasn't lasting to hundreds of hours. The players wanted to be able to last. And the reason for that really is that we didn't have enough what we would call overlapping access of randomness. And what I mean by that is that you've got mechanics that need to be able to spawn in regular maps. They need to be able to interact together ideally. So in this expansion, we're adding over 40 encounters, if you will, in terms of strong boxes and different types of whiffs and bosses run around, stuff like that. But the idea is to get more than 40 interesting combat situations out of that by allowing more of that content to be able to be introduced to each other. So you still see situations that are new even as you play hundreds of hours. Good. For example, he talks about you'll get a type of whiff, that certain type of boss, and then it's like, okay, well, now this boss has got some ability. It changes how the fight plays out. What if you had a corrupted essence at the same time? And what if you had this, and what if you had that? All of these things overlap together to produce a combinational explosion of possible outcomes that make the game much more interesting. And on PoE 1, we definitely had that in its end game with all the stuff we added. But PoE 2 didn't quite have enough of that stuff. Everything was somewhat compartmentalized for the most part. So it's like, well, once you've played it all one time, it's like, well, then now you've done that thing and it's not as interesting to play it second time and over again. Yeah. So basically, we just need more of that type of stuff. And so that's where the focus has been. But another thing is, as well, has just been for the existing mechanics. There's been a lot of tweaks, and the thing we have to be careful of when we're doing that stuff is players will say, for example, they'll say, oh, you need to drop more maps because I'm not sustaining maps. And then we're like, okay, well, I'm not having any trouble sustaining maps. What's going on here? And then you find out, well, okay, the reason why this is happening is because they're doing too much and much more than we expected. When you actually look at that stuff, and then when they die, they obviously don't get the drops for the rest of the map. So we're like, okay, well, how can we alleviate that problem? Maybe that's the issue. And then we started thinking about what should the death penalty be. And that's how we get into changing the res mechanics of maps. And so it's things like that, where you hear one thing, you have to try and come up with a different solution and try to improve things a lot. Yeah, I mean, at least they're taking it serious. They are very good at being receptive of fan feedback and all thoughts and criticisms like that, and are taking action to respond to all this stuff. The players need to get good. That's what I'm hearing. So Jonathan Rogers responds, well, No, I mean, we're just making it so that if players aren't good, they're not nearly as screwed as they were if they were. And this is the thing. It's actually a lot of time. It is an exercise in minimizing the differences between the best players and the worst players as far as making sure that they both have good experiences. And it's like you still need to make it so that there are big differences, but you don't want it to be that a player who's not good is getting is just getting completely screwed in their ability to continue to keep playing the end game. And so that's why we have to. We've made special rules. We changed drop mechanics for maps very significantly as well. There's just lots of things like that kind of go on that are not worth mentioning as far as content goes in a live stream. It certainly will matter a lot to play experience for players who are actually playing. Yeah. One thing I run into a lot because my beat at IGN is a lot of online games, live service games, is not just a division between highly skilled and low skilled players, but players who have a ton of time and want to live in this game, and players who are time taxed. And often there's a FOMO gap of like, well, I could make my game have ton of content, but then this group is going to be feeling like they're just going to miss out and maybe fall off of the game because now there's too much content for them to ever possibly keep up with. How does the team think about that? That's a good question. Reality is because a lot of people have families, jobs, other kind of stuff they do outside of gaming. So not everyone can just like be absorbed into this game alone, or they got other games to like to play. So Jonathan Rogers responds, well, I mean, ultimately, I think that more content is better than less. I agree with that when it comes to this kind of stuff. Even though you may run into that situation, people who are going to be the people who play the most are going to be the people who are most on your side and talking about your game and generating the buzz. He's not wrong. So I think it is very important to make sure we're appealing to those people and other people who have less time. I mean, they're still going to come along for the ride and they're still going to have a great time. And so long as we're still adding enough content, they're going to enjoy it, even if they don't get to experience literally everything. I think that's okay. And there's also this sort of funny thing where, on some level, you need aspirational content to exist in the game, content that is hard for most people to get through in order for there to be something to strive for next time. Yeah. If you didn't make it to the pinnacle this time, which I did not make it a pinnacle bosses yet, well, then maybe you'll play next time when we added more stuff throughout the rest of the game that improves your experience. But then the second time you play, you'll have a better time. And PoE is actually a game that kind of almost has a meta experience grind of each time you play the game, you get better as a player, which means you get further into it and further towards the goal. So that I think is part of the reason why Path of Exile has such appeal. PoE 1 is still growing. I mean, maybe I can't unequivocally say that now, but at least until PoE 2 came out, PoE 1 was still setting concurrency records so many years after it came out. That is really a lot of the reason for that. Speaking of aspirational content, you mentioned during yesterday's briefing that you were disappointed by how easily players were able to knock down a big end game boss at launch. Can you talk about how Dawn of the Hunt plans to scale back the pace at which players can creep up their power, assuming that's something you guys are shooting for? He talks about here. So I wouldn't say that we are shooting for that in the sense that we want overall for that to happen. What I will say is that there were certain combinations of mechanics that we didn't expect to be as crazy as they were, and those were found faster than people found the content, if you know what I mean. So it sort of meant that all that, the secrets of build creation had already kind of been unlocked by the time people did that. So yeah, I mean, look, we are doing a huge bounce pass. Every time, everything we will change. Your expectations of what is good and what is not good will just be readjusted very significantly by this. And the hope is that as we continue to iterate, that we'll just keep on improving. We will solve off anything that jumps up too far. We'll push up anything that's too far at the bottom, and we'll get to the point of having that be a lot better. And the reason for that really is because if something is easy to get to a broken state, which is what I mean by that is like, oh, you just combine these support gems and then suddenly you got an amazing build, and I said, don't even matter. If you have a situation like that, then people will all just do that. Whereas if it's like, okay, sure, you can kill the pinnacle boss in 14 seconds, but first of all, you need a unique item from this and you need a unique item from that, and it's like a whole thing, right? If it's economically expensive in game to be able to do something to become really powerful, then that's fine because you want people to get to the point of killing the pinnacle boss 40 seconds. You just don't want that to be the case the first time you fight the pinnacle boss. So that's effectively, ideally, what we're doing. And so, as I said, I don't look at that as slowing the game down. Exactly, it's just sawing off the things that are causing players to all flock to one particular broken thing, ultimately making the game not have that feeling of progression of power that you want to have. You want to really have that exponential growth all the way from beginning to end and not have any sort of like, oh, suddenly I'm just broken now. That happens at some point. Yeah, yeah. This is why, me personally, I don't really try to go for like meta broken builds per se right away. I try to think outside the box, do some weird stuff, still make the builds like really powerful by the time I'm done with them, but just have fun, like still have a challenge there. I don't want to just like I don't know, go through this like one shotting like enemies all the time type stuff, because then to me that gets boring. Let's talk about the Huntress. What are the main ways that the Huntress differs from the other characters' classes that I've already available in PoE2? And how does this character justify me going through another play or two of the campaign? All right. And when we're looking at new characters, one of the main questions is what weapon type does it use, and how is that weapon type going to make the game feel different? So in this case, we've got spears. Obviously, you don't have to use spears with the Huntress. You can use it on any class, but assuming you're using the stereotype weapon of the Huntress, that's spears. And the thing is, well, what makes this weapon type different than others? And the answer to that is spears are the only weapon that you can use both at melee distance and also throw them at range distance. So that's kind of the thing that we're thinking. Okay, what can we do to make the gameplay be constantly that? You're at melee range, you're at projectile range. What's the type of gameplay we can do to cause that to happen? That would be what will make the class feel different. Yeah. No weapon does that. So effectively, what it meant was we're like, okay, for every melee combo, we want there to be a range skill you have to do before that to unlock it. And for every range combo, we want there to be a melee thing you have to do before to unlock that combo. And then we also need to add a lot of tools for getting from one state to the other. And then what that sort of led to was a class that's incredibly agile, which is very good because it is the primary dex melee character. And it just feels like you're moving around the battlefield a ton. You're jumping in and out. It's just a very kinetic feeling that you get moving forwards and backwards like that, which I think feels very different than the other classes. So to me, that's the reason why that you would want to try it. Yeah, I'm definitely open to try it and down to try Huntress. Heck yeah. Other thing as well that I thought was quite interesting is that we managed to really get the parry of countering gameplay. We finally found a formula for that to work well in PoE, which was incredibly challenging. And also, honestly, I was very skeptical we would even be able to achieve it just due to the pace of the monsters attacking. But we have actually got something that does work in our game context really well. And so that's a fun one for me as well. Tell me about beast taming. How does that mechanic work, or is the idea that we're killing them and then summoning them from afterlife necromancer style? Or when you get to the tame beast skill, you effectively use it on a monster and you get some number of seconds. I think it might be 5 seconds or something like that to kill the monster while it's got that tame thing on it. And then if you do that, then effectively it gets trapped. Its spirit gets trapped and then sucked into your character, and then you can summon it as a companion. And the big thing with beast taming is that you get all the mods of the rare that you found. And then that means it's not necessarily just about finding the best type of beast. It's also finding a beast that has the best mods that you can use with as well. Yeah. It's all of those monster mods can do that. So that should be quite a fun hunt to find the best beast for your build. Some home players will have fun with that one. Yeah. How long do they remain by your side? Yeah, that's one I want to know too. Once you got them, it's like a Pokeball, right? That's your beast now. If it dies, it'll resummon. That's your beast. You can only have one at a time, though, for companions. Basically, you'll find a better beast, and then presumably you'll want to be using that one instead later on. But yeah, that's just your beast forever. Oh, that's freaking awesome. There's no time limit. You keep that beast you want forever until you get a new one. That's awesome. Are there limitations of what counts as a beast? I assume it has to be an animal. Jonathan says basically yes. Someone at some point has decided this is a beast and this is not. I'm sure there'll be some arguments from players about whether something counts as a beast or not. Ultimately, it just comes down to that. Okay. Next, they asked about, are you recommending that players start a new league with this update? Is this something that we can expect from all updates for the best experience starting from scratch? And Jonathan, says absolutely. It's like that. We kind of already went over this. Yeah, they recommend, when new league happens, to start over with new character. It's like that. We're gonna be we are a game where you come for a season, you play the game for a month or maybe 2 months, and you get through the content. You get to the point where you feel like your character is finished in some sense, then you stop and you go play something else. Yeah, but we'll always be back for another season. Right. So yeah, typical stuff there. And then basically asked about how once full launch happens, do they think players would be expected to do this once again? And he's like, yeah. You mentioned yesterday one of the changes in the end game is a new primary objective in the Atlas end game map of trying to stop corruption, which unlocks the ability to choose between doing corrupted or cleansed versions of maps while exploring the overworld. Can you explain what the pros and cons are of why you might want to do corrupted versus cleansed? It is flavor or enemy. Is it flavor or enemies? Are the rewards different? So effectively, the main two things are the enemies are different. There are different bosses, and then those different bosses have different rewards. And there's also things like, so for example, the cleanse maps are the only place that you're going to get the fracturing orbs. Okay, which is a new crafting mechanic that we've got. Effectively, just making sure that each type of content has different rewards. And then we do like it so that when you have different strategies and what you're doing on your Atlas, depending on what type of content that you need, it's like if you need this, then you're going to do that. If you need this, you're going to do that. So it's giving the players that sort of idea of them choosing what they're doing. But then ideally also being at a different point in a character's lifetime. They may need to do one versus the other, and so they're going to change their strategy at some point as well. But yeah, it's ultimately like, well, what rewards am I getting out of it at the end? Is a different element you have to be worrying about though, whenever we're just designing new content. You're also adding over 100 unique items. Can you tell me about the one you are most excited about personally, and bonus points if it's something that you fear might need to nerf? So one of the ones that might be broken is there's a shield that allows you to parry projectiles. We did show it in the video. It effectively means if you got that unique, that you no longer have to be close to monsters anymore. So it kind of deactivates the melee requirement of the Huntress a little bit. You can now parry and do all the combos from range. So we'll see how it goes because the empowered versions of all the spear throws are pretty good. And so we'll see how that goes. And also just in terms of defensiveness, that might be a little bit too off the hook, but we'll see. I'm hoping it'll be okay. I guess it's kind of has its own nerf because you have to be able to get the timing right to do the parries. This is actually not the case because in most games you do have to get the timing right to do that. But in our game, it's actually kind of the opposite of that. While you're holding down the parry button, you're parrying everything, and then it's what you do after the parry. Because what it does is when you parry something, it puts a counter on the enemy that you can then take advantage of with another skill. It's kind of backwards from how most games do it. We tried parry mechanics before. Actually, it's been one of those things that we struggle to get right. And the reason why is that was so hard because our game moves so quickly, and because there's lots of monsters around you all the time, you didn't really have the chance to follow up attacks very easily. Gotcha. But with the way we're done parries here, it means that you can much more easily and reasonably do that. Now, the reason why it still incentivizes good timing is because it does interrupt. Parry will immediately interrupt anything instantly, and anytime you're waiting for a monster to hit you is wasted time. You could be DPSing. So there's still incentive to get the timing right. Doing the timing before was just so hard with the combat pace we had that it was just wasn't working. So yeah, I'm really proud of how that worked out. But honestly, it wasn't even my idea. Actually, was not a believer. I didn't think it could work. And Mark Roberts was the one who actually managed to solve that problem. So once we did that, it really improved the class. So a lot of information revealed here. Talked about I'm excited though. It sounds like they are doing the best they can with everything from feedback and adjustments in the game. I'm hoping the servers are better because when I last played it, still servers having issues. I was dealing with lag and stuff like that. So I'm hoping they're a lot better there. We'll have to see though. This is definitely cool how Jonathan Rogers is doing all these interviews and answering feedback and things like that. What do you guys think about this? Does this make you more relieved about some of the changes coming to Dawn of the Hunt expansion? Kept dropping April 4th. Do you still have more worries as well too about other things and how things are going to be balanced out? Let me know your thoughts on that. I don't have all the answers, but I will definitely keep you guys updated as best I can when it comes to PoE2 and what they're doing. As I said before, I may do another video regarding the full patch notes just to see what they're actually changing and what might actually be really good and exciting to jump back into PoE2 if you're taking a break, or if you have not played it yet, this might be the right time for you to jump in. So definitely leave your thoughts in the comments below, guys. And if you enjoyed this, hit that like, subscribe if you're new as well. I'll see you guys in the next video.